And there will be signs in the sun and the moon and in the stars. And on the earth, distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them from fear and the expectation of those things which are coming upon the earth. For the powers of heaven will be shaken. Now I want you to notice the last part. For the powers of heaven will be shaken. The word powers is translated from the Greek word dunamis. And in this context, it refers to the power that rests upon the armies, forces, or host in the heavens. In other words, it's referring to angelic or demonic forces. Look at Ephesians chapter 6, verse number 12, and you'll see what I'm talking about. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers, there's that word, powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. All four categories listed in verse 12 dwell in the heavenly realms. Yeah. Now, Jesus said in Luke 21, verse 26, that during the tribulation, people are going to see signs and wonders in the heavens, to the point that it seems as if the powers of heaven are being shaken. Saluo in Greek. Now, you might have heard that Greek word pronounced a different way, and let me explain why. Normally, when you're pronouncing Greek, Koine Greek, you actually do the syllables according to the consonants. So many people will pronounce this saluo. But because there's a diphthong there with epsilon, you take the lambda and you put it with the first syllable, okay? So it's saluo. Now, the picture that's being painted with this Greek word is of someone who wants to get the dirt and grass off of the blanket, so they shake it out. The dirt and the grass come off of the blanket and it falls to the earth. So the implication is the demonic forces in the spiritual realm, or hyperspace if you will be coming into our dimension. The heavens are being shaken and those forces are manifesting in our world. Remember, Jesus said that it will be like it was in the days of Noah. That's the picture that's being painted. In fact, I want to use this as an object lesson. Many of you thought I was probably going to be baptized. Now, that's later. But I want you to imagine this. Imagine that you go to an outdoor concert, or maybe you're going to a picnic, and you bring a little blanket and you put the blanket on the ground so that you can all sit on it. You don't want to be sitting on the ground. You don't want to get the grass and dirt all over you. So you get on this blanket, and when it's time to go, you realize you've gotten up many times. You've kicked grass on it. There's dirt on the underside. So when you get up, you don't just start folding your blanket. What do? You saluo. You start shaking it. Why do you shake it? You're trying to get the grass and the dirt to fall off of the blanket and onto the ground. Yeah, that's what saluo means. And the picture that's being painted is that the forces that's in this angelic realm, or this heavenly realm, they're coming out of the air and they're falling to the ground. They're coming out of the heavenly realm into our dimension. Yeah. Now, let's read Luke chapter 21, verses 25 and 26 again, but let's also read the very next verse, 27. And there will be signs. What signs are we talking about? Signs in the sun, in the moon, and in the stars. In other words, the heavens. That's a figure of speech to be able to say there's going to be signs in the heavens, in the sky. Yeah. And on the earth, distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them from fear and the expectation of those things which are coming on the earth. And then he tells you, for. That Greek conjunction tells you why. He said, here's why their hearts are failing them for fear. Because of these things coming on the earth. For the powers of the heaven will be shaken. There's that word saluo. It's like it's shaking there, and the things that are in the heavenly realm are falling and coming into our dimension. Yeah. Now, let's read verse 27. It's the very next verse. The powers of the heavens will be shaken. Notice what it says in the very next verse. Then they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. Do you see that? The shaking of the powers in heaven precedes the second coming of Jesus Christ. In other words, it happens during the tribulation, and in all probability right after the rapture occurs. Those of you who have been at our church for a long time, you've heard my teaching on eschatology, you know that the tribulation does not begin when the rapture occurs. No. When does the tribulation begin? When the Antichrist brokers the peace treaty with Israel for 7 years. When you see the 7-year peace treaty, that's when it begins. But the rapture sets it off. There's going to be a period of time, we don't know how long of a period of time, before the Antichrist reveals himself and he comes in and he brokers this peace treaty. In fact, most people won't know it's the Antichrist in the very beginning, but he's the one that will broker this peace treaty. Yeah. But what this is telling us here is that the shaking of the powers in the heavens is going to occur during the tribulation, and in all probability right after the rapture occurs. And what do you think that is? Is there a strategic purpose for the shaking of the powers of heaven occurring during the tribulation, before the second coming of Jesus Christ, but in all probability right after the rapture, during this 7-year period? Is there a strategic purpose for the timing of these things? I think there is. And its purpose is to what? Deceive. You see, as a young Christian, I always believed that when the rapture occurred, people would know what had happened and they would turn to the Bible for answers. They would finally see that we as Christians are right, and they're all going to run to church. But there's no one there except unbelievers. The pastor's gone. The true believers are gone. But you know, now I realize they're not going to know what happened. And as a result, people are going to be deluded.